Hello there. My name is John Velliquette. I'm running for the open position of trustee of the trust fund and also for one of the two open positions as trustee of Leach Library. I'll explain how this unusual situation came about in a few minutes, but first I'd like to tell you a little bit about me. Since I'm probably not very well known here in Londonderry at this point, I believe it would be beneficial to provide you with some information about my background, experiences, and qualifications for your consideration when you go to the polls on March 8th. We have been residents of Londonderry since 1983. We chose Londonderry to be our first permanent home in the United States after completing 23 years of service in the U.S. Army. Those years took us to many places in the USA and all around the world, as we moved 11 times. Our final 7 years were capped off with an assignment to Iran, where we experienced the full 1978 revolution, and a few years later arriving back in Egypt, October 1981, at the time when Sadat was killed and the era of President Mubarak just started. Quite a bit of experiences that we piled behind us, places where we've lived that had an impact on our family and on our children. Our oldest son was born at the U.S. Army Hospital in El Paso, Texas in 1963, and after moving around all these places, he eventually graduated from West Point Military Academy in 1986. If for some reason you happen to Google my name, you'll most likely find more articles about him and what he accomplished on General Petraeus' staff in Iraq when he served there several years ago. His oldest son, as it will be, is now in his second year at West Point Military Academy also. Our second child was born in Toledo, Ohio in 1965 while I was off on the first of 3 assignments to Korea. She graduated from the University of New Hampshire and is presently a school teacher in Methuen. Our third child, born in 1970 at a Baptist Missionary Hospital in Busan, Korea, where our family was there stationed with me. He eventually graduated from Londonderry High School after we moved back here and got a degree at New Hampshire Technical Institute in Manchester. Our final child was born at the U.S. Air Force Academy Hospital in Colorado Springs when we were stationed there. She got her nursing degree here in New Hampshire and now works at Dartmouth-Hitchcock. So as you can see, all this moving around presented us with a lot of opportunities to see and be involved in many different communities and their school systems. I'm sharing all this past background to help you understand why we selected Londonderry, hopefully as our final home. We loved what we could see of the character of the town, the reputation of the excellent schools, and the fact that the town had a nice functional library. We knew well from our various experiences how important it was to have a good library with creative programs, and that was critical for the students, the schools, and for the health of the community. Because we'd been involved in these various communities at other locations, my intention was to get settled in my new job with Raytheon and then learn more about Londonderry and find a way to eventually contribute whatever I could to our new home. A few years later, because of my background in international programs, I became deeply involved in starting up a new program in another country. So in 1989, we went back to the Mideast for a 2-year assignment and stayed for about 18 years. All during that period, we remained residents of Londonderry. Our home remained open, and Joyce came back here for the summer months whenever the American school was closed. She was working there in that country. I made it back for about a month each year for some vacation time and do things around the house. We did manage to keep the house open because several of our children were able to move in and take care of it while we were away. We paid our property taxes. We voted in elections by absentee ballot, and we watched from a distance as Londonderry grew up around us and without us. During the years away, I kept thinking that one day I'd be back in Londonderry and would finally get involved in activities here and do my share to give back to the town. Unfortunately, things don't always go according to plan. After being back for only 6 months at the end of 2007, I was hit by a severe spinal infection that essentially kept me in hospitals and rehab facilities until early 2009. The last 2 years have been a challenging period where I'm continuing to make progress on the long, slow path to regain my mobility. Which now brings me to why I'm here today. I'm now officially retired from my 25 years with Raytheon and finally have the time and sufficient mobility to offer my services and give back to the community that has truly been and is our home. Joyce and I intend to celebrate our 50th wedding anniversary here in the fall. Several weeks ago, I was made aware of the various positions that were open in the March elections. I've been watching a number of videos that have been produced and put on Channel 22 and Channel 30 and found them very, very interesting. But because I watched those videos and saw how professional and how dedicated the people on the various committees were and how much history there was to the things they were doing, I made the decision that because I was essentially a newcomer to Londonderry town government, I should probably take my initial entry in something other than the town council positions. So in the afternoon of the last day for filing, I went to the town clerk's office to see if either the trustee of the trust fund or trustee of the Leach Library positions had any candidates against them. I was quite surprised and actually disappointed to see that as of that moment, no one had filed for the open trust fund position, and also that one of the two Leach Library positions were still without any candidates. I've always been bothered by the syndrome where most people don't seem to get involved in things because someone else will do it. This seems to apply to almost everything from Boy Scouts to after-school activities, volunteer groups, community service organizations, and even local governments. We all seem to have reasons. Many are valid, some are just excuses, some are just personal value judgments and choices. In my specific case, I have the background and the experience to perform the responsibilities of those positions. And now I have the time and I have the willingness to devote to whatever I commit to do. So I felt rather than have an important seat potentially go empty, I would run for both. And if elected, I had no doubt that if allowed, I could effectively serve in either or both capacities. Several times I've mentioned that I feel qualified to perform responsibilities of a trustee, so I guess I should tell you a little bit about that. My past portfolio of experiences includes 18 years of managing and directing all activities and elements of a subsidiary country or company in another country with an annual operating budget of between $2 and $6 million a year. I've had total responsibility for all support of my employees and their families, to include their housing and transportation, education, health care, recreation, and whatever you can imagine. It was as if I was the mayor of a small town. So all the elements that you find here in Londonderry were elements that we had to deal with in that experience. I've had 25 years of direct involvement with contract proposals, negotiations, budgeting, and execution of contracts between the U.S. and foreign governments and between the U.S. government and defense contractors. I was elected the president of the American Chamber of Commerce in my last country and served in that position, elected for 9 years in a row, and had to deal with 107 different companies that made up the American Chamber of Commerce there. So I was able to hone my personal skill sets. I'm experienced in working towards achieving consensus, reaching compromise in order to find the best possible goal for all concerned. I think I'm very quick to assimilate and analyze complex inputs and develop reasonable solutions. And I know that I have the ability to view all inputs and approaches with an open mind and without undue emotion. About the issues we have here in Londonderry, well, I'm very new to this. The common issue I know we have is within town government and our personal lives is that times are absolutely tough and money is tight. The challenge of our town is to find a way to live within whatever financial constraints are imposed or set, while striving to continue to provide the essential level of services and programs that the tax-paying citizens have a right to expect. At this point, I don't have a set of slogans to chant or a list of past failures or bad decisions that others may have made that I should attack. I don't know enough about it. Once I'm elected and can see the numbers, understand all the facts and the specific issues that need to be addressed, then I can and will go to work as hard as I can for you. I offer a fresh face with an open mind, a can-do attitude, and a sincere willingness to serve if given the opportunity. So voters of Londonderry, now that you know a bit more about me, I do sincerely hope that you will go to the polls on March 8th. Cast your vote for me to be a trustee of Leach Library and a trustee of the trust fund. I promise you that if elected to either or both positions, I'll do my best to keep Londonderry on the upward path for the benefit of all citizens and give something back to the town that I live in. See you at the polls. Thank you.